What's going on, everybody? It's David Palmer, Leo King, and welcome to Deep Astrology, your weekly astrology forecast for the week of April the 7th through the 13th of 2020. This is an exclusive weekly horoscope for highvibe.tv, which we have all the links down here to get a hold of us, but our apps and our website is where we have our exclusive content like this show, where you get it in its full form. If you're watching this on YouTube, you're going to get the beginning part where we're going to give you the audio and the video, and the second part with just the audio only. But if you want to watch this live, and if you want to get the whole entire show, you can always get it on highvibe.tv, just like my daily video horoscopes, my weekly sun sign horoscopes, my weekly tarot, my weekly intuitive, and all the awesome other practitioners on highvibe.tv that have awesome daily and weekly and monthly content as well. Of course, I'm also doing a love masterclass. We are on week 7 of a now extended 10-week course. So Wednesday nights at 4 p.m. If you want to be part of the live, join the course, but watch all the recordings. You already got 6 weeks done, over 20 hours of content about your love story, the love story about somebody else. And with this full moon in Libra right now and Venus going shadow by Thursday, you better have gotten things straight. We're about to rocket ship into the most extreme energies dealing with Venus. Relationships, money, programs that you are going to create in your life, your self-worth. There is so much here. Make sure that you check it out. It's an awesome school, and it is on fire right now. Well, if you never watched the show before, this is where I'm going to channel the astrology for you for the first part, and then we're going to go deep into the charts, which are brought to you by Astrology, which you can get on iOS, Android, any Mac device. And of course, if you are on Solar Fire, make sure that you get it on PC. I can't even believe we are all here at this moment right now. We are in the Sun in Aries, of course, where we are trying to define ourselves, and we're in a world of Jupiter, Pluto that just conjuncted last weekend in Capricorn, right? It's almost like, man, the new world is one that's got iron bars that are invisible. Pluto's invisible. Jupiter in Capricorn has exploded us into this new world, and it's Capricornian. Feels restricted, feels very Saturnian, right? Well, this full moon in Libra, which really is this week, and the main part of it, and actually I'm filming this right now on Tuesday, with this full moon in Libra, with this sun in Aries, and this full moon in Libra is making a minor square over to this Jupiter-Pluto. So we are all having to balance out, we're having to focus on relationships, and really find in our journey of ourself and who we are right now with this Aries energy, and with Chiron, remember, in Aries, that's now at 6 degrees, we have just come across the shadow period of where Chiron went retrograde last year. So we are going into even weirder territory with this whole identification of the world, our identification of ourselves. But this full moon in Libra is about where emotionally we need to go with relationships. This is going to be the last moon in Libra here. I think it's actually going to be like right on the money, because we have the North Node shifting into Gemini on May 5th. Today is April 7th. It's going to be right there, right as the moon's going to come back into Libra. We're going to be going in through a North Node transition. And with the North Node being in Cancer, it's so important for the last 17 months that we've been focusing on where the moon positions are, and especially full or new moon cycles or solar eclipse cycles, because that North Node, that North Star energy, it's not literal, but that energy of it has been focused on emotions and the moon. And so this is very important about relationships right now, because this is Libra, and to find that counterbalance in life and to find some sort of peace right now, but with that big trying to balance out and understand in an identity consciousness about this invisible, iron-barred world that we're living in right now, which is Jupiter and Pluto and Capricorn. Now this conjunction, the first of 3, happened on Saturday, which we just exited March with, right? So, you know, it's like this is a very weird time. And it's a very weird time because, you know, the beginning of April brought about Jupiter and Pluto conjunction. And I already spoke about it last week. Last time was December 11th of 2007, and it was in Sagittarius, which was this wide open world of anywhere that you wanted to go and however you wanted to experience it. And now there's these invisible Capricornian lead bars everywhere, iron bars, because that's what Capricorn rules, is the lead and the iron. But we got to turn this to gold, right? That's what alchemy is all about. How are we going to turn this lead into gold? Well, relationships. I know it might sound crazy, but with Saturn in Aquarius, this is all about our connections to tribe, to people, and all different types of people in our life. And we have Venus that deals with relationships in Gemini, and it is going shadow on Thursday. So this full moon on Tuesday is bringing us into a rampant, quick, out of nowhere, we got to figure it out about relationships in our life in this new world, which dare to say I would call the invisible prison. Because we have to start to determine, are we going to have love? Are we going to have joy? Are we going to have that peace? Are we going to have that connection? Or are you just going to continue to just say, no, I'm just going to wait for the television to tell me on how I'm going to live my life fully? I'm not telling anybody to break any rules or anything like that, but I'm telling people to realize that if you really believe with Pluto and Jupiter, with the South Node still in Capricorn, that all systems will just go back to normal and to go at some point and be normal, it's ludicrous. It's an illusion. Like, this is definitely this new system that has been about control. And with Venus at shadow, we're about to get launched into one of the most karmic Venus retrograde cycles of our lives. Because Venus in Gemini is important for us to pay attention to, since the North Node is getting ready to shift into Gemini here in less than a month. And Gemini does rule twin energies, right? The dualistic nature, what feels like is stimulating to us in life. But it also rules small confinements, smaller environments, short distance travel. That means like by car or quick plane trip or whatever. Not long journeys like Sagittarius deals with, or big expeditions in life. This is definitely about the environment that you want to be in. And the last time we had Venus come into shadow was in 2012 in April, and then followed by the Venus retrograde of May and June, which is the same way that we're going to deal with on this May and June. Although this one's going to have the North Node. 8 years ago, we had the South Node. And remember, with every Venus cycle, every 8 years, Venus comes back to return to its retrograde in the same area of where it did 8 years prior. That's why the Mayans used Venus extremely in their astrology, because it's the only planet in the whole entire astrological system, besides the sun and the moon, that you can guarantee know every 8 years I can look up there and I know where Venus will be. Now every 8 years it moves about 2.5 to 3 degrees to where it's going to retrograde. But this one's crazy because we're going to start talking about it a lot. You're going to hear me on a little bit of broken record for the next 3 months, because this one is the most powerful Venus retrograde we could have, because of the fact that the one in 2012 and the one in 2004 were Venus eclipses. And that cycle has ended, and we have not seen Venus to return to the positions to where it did its retrograde zone with Venus eclipses. And what I mean by Venus eclipses, you were able to in 2012, and you were able to in 2004 during Venus and the Sun during their Cassini point, watch with goggles or the special glasses. And they were showing it, and you can go look it up on YouTube. When they were with NASA and stuff, you could see Venus past the sun, because it's right on our perfect ecliptic cross point level, and of course with the nodes and where they were at. So you have to realize that the last cycle was with the South Node in Gemini. This is going to be a new one coming up about the North Node. And honestly, here we are ramping up the end of Cancer and Capricorn nodes. And let's just be real, this has been a shit show since November of 2018. Nothing against Cancer, nothing against Capricorn. People take this stuff too personally when I talk about horoscopes, but these have been very horrible zones in the zodiac for the nodes to be in when you have Saturn, South Node together in 2019, conjuncting. You have Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto, and a Saturn-Pluto conjunction, and a Jupiter-Pluto conjunction, and a Mars, Saturn, Pluto, Jupiter aspect. I mean, all of that with the South Node. It's not fun. We have literally just gone through the most wrecking ball energy of life. And so this is going to be important, because with Venus coming into shadow Thursday, we get launched into some really karmic cycles. It's the ultimate breakups. It's the ultimate come-togethers. But we have to start to make these choices now. And I know I might sound like, oh my gosh, you know, you should be able to take some time. No, it is crazy out there. Saturn is in Aquarius now, and we have to make these connections. And Mars is in Aquarius. And Mars hasn't been here since 2 years ago in 2018 when it retrograded with the South Node. So it's trying to make the things work that didn't work in the summer of 2018 or the winter of 2018 if you're down there in Australia or South Africa and South America and stuff. So you just need to know that this Libra full moon trying to truly click together the true energies of the partnerships we need in our life to get us through what, in my opinion, is, and I said this on my pre-2020 video on highvibe.tv, that right away you were going to feel what the whole entire decade would feel like. And I know that one's going to be the hardest pill to swallow on this deep astrology. I'm not saying it's going to look exactly like this, but the energy of what and how this new, it's going to be like this for a long time. And there's nothing to be scared about with that. But it's more about now you got to start to put together relationships, because where did Saturn and Pluto meet in 82 and 83 in their conjunctions? Libra. Where did Saturn and Pluto meet? Only once. That's all they had to meet in actual conjunction. Capricorn on January 12th of 2020. So the cycle from 82 to 2020, that 37-year cycle is over. And it was a hard one about relationships. But how funny. This one's much easier, as if you look at your life right now in this invisible prison, it's a lot more people connecting on real, because we're all on the same page now. We're all on the same page when it comes to we can relate to one another, that we're all going through the same experience. And this is a moment where relationships are about aligning with us to come together. How else is this coalition of Saturn and Aquarius going to be if we can't even form personal relationships that are going to work in our lives? But you got to get over the belief systems. Part of Jupiter and Pluto is you got to put an end, and you got to be determined, like Capricorn, to realize that you can step into the authority in yourself about making decisions and choices and sticking to them and making sure that you realize that this is about, that it was relationships at the end of the day for this moment of this new decade that it's all about. It's about relationships. It's about love. It's about friendship. It's about partners in every sort of fashion and way. And because Venus comes into shadow on Thursday, I'm giving people this really ramped up energy, especially with Mars square Uranus right now during this full moon. Mars at 5 and 6 degrees of Aquarius, squaring that Uranus at 5 degrees of Taurus. So, you know, this is crazy because it's a major turn out of nowhere, a left field turn. And with our direction needing to go forward with Mars in Aquarius, and Uranus is all about moving forward, and Taurus about a better life, you have to kind of be the crazy person and do crazy kind of like, more not crazy like crazy outside world crap, like don't go do crazy, you know what I mean? But like the idea of this is crazy. My life will be better if I go into this radical new direction and I learn how to connect with energy that feels in the same alignment with my values, the same enrichment of what I want to feel, because sensuality and physical touch and physical energy and smells and all these beautiful things, the Garden of Eden is what Taurus is, and this is where Uranus is. And in order for us to get to that Garden of Eden, for us to get to that heaven, especially with Venus, which is the ruler of Taurus, which happens to be now in Gemini in the star system of the Pleiades, which is the seven sisters. It's the light bringers of the universe. It's our home. It's our Lumerian energy of humans. With the North Node coming into here, this is what the universe is saying is going to bring us this light and this love, is to have that energy where we are connecting, where we are communicating, where we are having touch, where we are having a physical presence of relationships, and we are having that around. And I know that the universe in the invisible prison is trying to show you that that's not possible. But there's plenty of them all around on television and everything, in their Instagrams or in their Facebooks or whatever, putting plenty of pictures with their partners. So it's quite the time for you to face your own fears. And the ultimate fear is leaving the invisible prison, which is the prison from love, from beauty, from this natural, gorgeous energy that is around us in life. And this is karma coming at its most intense form to create the ultimate dharma of a new future for you in your life. But you have to be willing to not be afraid of a radical, transformational, extreme shift in the gears, a shift in the road, a shift in the direction. Because with Mercury finishing in Pisces this week, where it's been extremely confused, and the math has been wrong for the last 6 weeks, everybody's lost right now in their minds. You can't even remember words. You can't even remember names. You can't even remember what life almost used to be like. It's because we have been in the worst place for Mercury. But it's been making a nice sextile on this full moon to Jupiter and Pluto, meaning that we are starting to understand the invisible prison. We are starting to understand the world that changed. We are starting to understand that in order to get the road and the passion of the life that we want to have, that we have to make tough choices. But they come with major rewards. There might not be a lot of doors anymore. There might not be that moment anymore in life for a long time where you just go, I'm going to go to this country and I'm going to get this ticket and I'm just going to take this long-term journey and I'm going to go sit on an island for 2 weeks. That's not what the astrology is showing. It's showing quite the opposite, that the island, the journey, the ticket and everything is through the love and the partnerships and the unions that, if you see in the future, are going to all come together and form the new world. So this Venus coming into shadow creates the weirdness of the story because it lasts for a long time, as Venus is going to be here in Gemini for months and months and months, all the way into the summer and into July. And so with Venus here, you've got to make these choices because this is the only full moon in Libra of the year. Last year we had 2 full moons in Libra. Thank God, because it made you double look at your relationship life and how it was either not in alignment at all with spirit, and also form which ones you knew were aligned with your path and destiny. But this year we only get 1, and thank God it's happening right before Venus goes shadow on Thursday. Because once that shadow hits, how you go through this story now about Venus, about relationships, about money, about creation, about all these things are about the choices you make literally on this full moon into Wednesday. Especially because Mars square Uranus is, in order to ascend right now, in order to move forward into a new direction, in order to step into the radicality of the life that you want, into the future that you want, and the connection that you want, you have to take a bold move that is not about being afraid of advancing forward into something new, into something different, into something that seems like if you were to talk about it, you would be criticized that you were crazy. But you are not crazy. You are innovative. You're here to innovate right now your world to feel better. You're here to innovate your life to feel good. And the ultimate medicine right now in the world is nothing about what you hear about all the time about what we call of medicine, but it's love and it's connection and it's being positive and it's being excited about things. Just because that outer world has a gnarly situation going on doesn't mean that you cannot still be excited about life. I was extremely excited to get up here and talk to you all today about this. I was extremely excited today about just living life and having fun and just even doing the reading that I just did before I got off here. I had a great time on that reading. Everything in life has excitement around us if we're willing to start to be part of that. And Venus in Gemini needs that stimulation, that excitement. It needs to feel young. It needs to feel youthful. But this is the choice that you must make in your life, whether this is the relationship just about you and your life, the relationship with yourself, the relationship with partnerships. It's all on the line right now because it's squaring Jupiter, Pluto. You either make the biggest transformation and open up the 1 or 2 doors, it's very limited in Capricorn, to the ultimate path, or you don't, and you will go through this Venus retrograde with the North Node there, yearning and desiring and just wishing you had it, but you don't get it. And I know that might just sound like, oh, come on, that's just some baloney. Whenever Rahu, the North Node, meets with Venus, it's always this extreme desire that you would do anything for it. And I would hate people to go through May and June during this retrograde because they didn't want right now, when they know they could have made some moves. They know with Mars, especially trining Venus this week, although it's going to be kind of funny that it'll be in shadow when it happens. That means we're really kick-starting into this crazy karmic story that you're either connected or you're disconnected through it all. Because you're afraid. Remember that Libra and Aries, where this full moon is a cardinal sign. You have to pick a direction, because all cardinal people walk like this and go towards things like this. You don't see them going, I don't know where I'm at. Like, you know, no, they know. Even though Libras are probably like, no, I'm always doing this. And no, but when it comes to relationships, you're not. You're like, kabang! You know what I mean? Like, bam! So you have to remember that these cardinal signs are all about direction. And if you're right now doing this, if you're radaring, you're in Neptunian world right now, which Neptune is making a quincunx to this full moon. Almost exact. 19 Pisces, Neptune, 18 Libra, full moon. Bang! I was born with quincunxes, I was born with yod. So there's no yod here, but I'm just saying that, like, don't be creating your own little puppet on a string and trying to live your life more like a puppet than actually integrating a dream into beauty. Instead of lost into balancing, it's about making a judgment call and a spiritual, intuitive knowing. And there is no real, energy here that's going to give you some sort of 100% clarity in the physical. The only energy that's going to be clear is the guiding force within you, the guiding force of spirit, the synchronicities, and the more crazy and radical the story might seem. Isn't that how these most fated moments happen in life? And I just think that this is one of the most beautiful times that we could ever be in. And I think it's ironic that when we come to Thursday and we do come to see Venus at 5 degrees of Gemini, where it comes shadow, and this shadow period is because that's where Venus will retrograde back to in June and come direct. But it is this Venus shadow that comes on Thursday with the moon in Scorpio. So you'll know deeply an inner knowing with the trine to Neptune, and the squares, remember, that also Wednesday come that make it even more difficult with the moon that does come after being full in Libra and come into Scorpio and square Mars and Saturn. Yeah, big choices about, are you going to connect to the world or are you too scared? Because a moon, remember, in Scorpio is at its fall position. It doesn't like to be there. Why is it at fall position? Well, because are you too addicted to your own fears? Or are you too emotionally invested and comfortable of in a position that's afraid to go into the opposition to Uranus and Taurus? That's the ultimate, most beautiful place. To the ultimate Garden of Eden, heaven. Like, why? You afraid to go to heaven? Do you really like the way that this is right now? You like this frequency? You're cool with this one right now? Because there's going to be kind of that collective conscious choice if we take this outside of our individual selves that we're talking about right now. If we look at the collective, is this a collective right now that's just going to be, is comfortable with the change? That's about how this new world looks? And is this the way that we want it to look? Does this all make logical sense? Mercury's at these last degrees of Pisces, remember, this week. And so I think it's even weirder that as we come into Friday, Mercury goes to the last degrees of Pisces and then comes into Aries into the weekend. And it's like we wake up, and I'd hate for you to wake up and go, I fucking missed that whole entire moment before the rocket ship took off with Mars and Venus trine of where to go. So this is definitely where you want to start deciding about things quick. Because once Venus goes into shadow, buying items, relationships, and a bunch of stuff without some sort of clarity gets really into the weird zone. I was having a talk with Craig about this. I bought a couple cars once, a couple times in my life. Actually, I remember, a lot of people associate cars mechanically wrong with Mars retrograde. So, but it's interesting when you buy a vehicle with Venus retrograde. Like, I can't describe it, but it's just the weirdest shit about those cars that I bought in Venus retrograde always happens. Or Venus shadow. Whatever you buy, like a computer or whatever relationship you try to get into, there's just always something that kind of goes through a weird spot. And especially if you're in a relationship, it's during this Venus shadow and Venus coming into its retrograde. And this one's always really extreme because remember, there's going to be the eclipse season that's through Venus retrograde, just like it was in 2012. And I want everybody to go back to April of 2012 and see where were you at this plateau about ready to come into this new either cliff in your life or this beautiful jump into something that was amazing. And all these things are connected to the destined path of where you could do your ultimate light work. So you have to realize that karma is extreme during these moments. And we're at the precipice of it starting on Thursday. And maybe I am an astrologer that overhypes it. Most astrologers are just going to say Venus goes into shadow on Thursday. And that's all they're going to give you. But I'm here to give you more because I'm here to tell you that it's fucking when, just even from personal experience as an astrologer, that boy, oh boy, it is this one for some reason with the eclipses that are over. Now it's going to be over 100 years till we see a Venus eclipse. We've never seen Venus come into Gemini here after eclipses, and especially we haven't seen Venus and Gemini do its shadow and retrograde form with the node being in the north area of this, instead of always being in the south or being in the sign next to it, or just being in a sign that's not even related to it at all. So it's been a long time because the one in 1996 didn't even have the nodes even with it, right? So like now you have to go back to prior to that, to 1988. And that was the same year that Mars retrograded in Aries. And what was crazy about that was that's what's happening this year. So in many ways, there's a lot of 1988 playing out. But again, that was also pre-2012 in the old world. So this is a moment for you to realize. It was also interesting in 96 as well, that Jupiter and Pluto had finished and met in Scorpio at the last degrees of Scorpio. So why do you think the world got really kind of hidden and dark, and underneath there was something going on, but we all were trying to understand what it was? So if I were to end this about this week, Mercury comes into Aries. Moon's going to come into Sagittarius, make squares to Neptune, and Mercury will be in Aries with Chiron by the end of this week. It's starting to move really quick. And there's something to say about with this Mars coming off the trine to Venus and the square to Uranus, and Venus starting to go into this major shadow, that we are entering a whole new story about our wants, our needs, our desires, and the curiosity and the stimulation and the environment that we need to wrap ourselves around with this. And with the sun in Aries, we have to be bold, because when we do come into this weekend on Sunday into Monday, the sun is going to square Pluto. The sun is going to start to square Jupiter as I see you next week here at this time. And that Jupiter-Pluto conjunction with a square to the sun in Aries is an exalted sun. That you have to realize that your whole world is about to go through an extremely big change, just as the collective just experienced it, that your own personal life. And that's what the buildup of this whole week is, with this Venus ready to go shadow. And with the nodes finishing here in Cancer and Capricorn in less than a month away, shifting into Gemini and Sag, the exalted positions for them, because astrology is ruled by Mercury. It's hermetic. And this is where you have to see that you have to be able to see all sides right now, all angles, and how reality works, from dark to light to positive, negative, how the tree of life works, how it all works. You should study alchemy. You should study hermeticism right now. You should understand Hermes' journey. You should understand that there's a comet that is going to be in May, that is going to be brighter than Venus during this cycle. So we might not have a Venus retro. We might not have a Venus eclipse, but we're going to have a comet brighter. There's no coincidence that even though maybe that cycle ended in the Venus eclipse cycle, that God wants this to be the area that we focus on the most. That comet is coming and barreling towards the sun right now, and it will be in May that we see it before it leaves and it barrels into the sun. That we have to understand that this is not normal. This is not just another day to sit on your fucking couch and watch fucking you-know-who, the M&Ms, that are fucking trying to create the world and the frequency that you're living in anymore because you need to freaking use while you still have doors in this invisible prison to fucking create the most beautiful life you can before Saturn comes back and before we start to see the Saturn, Pluto, Jupiter shit come back. You have no idea. And with Venus in shadow and retro, it gets harder and harder and harder to do the things that you want to do. It's more slipping into the most fated positions of your life. And for some people, I'll be honest, wherever you were, if it was the most positive experience of your life, maybe that positive experience goes to the opposite. Maybe, I don't know, it gets really weird with Gemini, it flips. And I notice on every cycle, there's always the flip. If you went through a breakup, you might come into a relationship. If you went through into a relationship, you go through a breakup. If you know, there's a lot of weird shit. And ironically enough, go look at yourself, the astrology of 2012 at this exact time, April 7th. Go look at April 8th, and you'll see Venus exactly where it is right now in 2020. Why do you think the Mayans used this system? And more importantly, it was on April 10th when I started the daily video horoscope. So I want to say thank you to everybody who's been watching me, especially here, the Deep Astrology fans, because most of the people on Deep Astrology have been following me the most. And it's been you for 8 years, and it was the day before Venus went shadow that I created this daily video horoscope. The day before it went shadow. Now imagine if I would have tried this the day it went into shadow or after. Do you think it would have came about the same way? We also got spiritual dance music coming up right after this, so don't want y'all to forget that. And I know I might sound like a crazy person, but it's the real deal. And it's definitely something not to take, I would say, too lightly. But take it lightly in the sense of it being beautiful and exciting and fun. And why can't this still be a fun life? Why can't this still be an exciting life? Why can't you still not have, even in the confines of the world that has been brought upon us, create the most amazing world? I see everybody throwing up, you know, this is when this person was in during the plague. They had to, you know, go through this, and then they came out with this great energy. Then why can't it still be amazing in Disneyland? Or why aren't you going to make it the way that you want it to be in all forms, shapes, and manners? I just feel that, you know, this is the flexibility that Venus and Gemini wants us to remember about, and to start to get what our minds can logically think about. And with the North Node finishing here in Cancer, it's about your ultimate emotional needs and wants. And with the South Node in Capricorn, you might be illusioned by all the rules and how the way it all works there in this new world of the invisible prison. But the North Node in Cancer is saying you got these last minutes to get your comfort and to get that home stuff figured out before we go through something that is going to still blow our minds more than we've ever seen. And I know that you thought your mind was blown at the beginning of this year. We haven't even seen it yet. That's just the beginning. That's just the first preface. We're not even on chapter 1 yet. All right, let's take a look at the charts. If you're not on highvibe.tv, then join so you can watch we go through the charts. But I'm going to switch it to audio now for those on YouTube. All right, April 7th, here we are. Bum, ba, bum, bum, bum. All right. And here is Venus right before it goes shadow. Remember, 5 degrees. Don't forget about that. And what's the big deal today? The full moon. So this full moon's at 18 degrees, and there's those squares that are happening down there over to Jupiter and Pluto. So, you know, this is that new world. Remember I called it the invisible prison. Pluto was with the South Node, so it's extremely invisible. But with Jupiter here about the new world, well, it's a Capricorn world. Remember that Capricorn Jupiter is at its fall position. That means it doesn't have a lot of options. And it's almost like the controls or the rules or the structures or the governments and all that have that stuff. But there's not much more time left before the hidden element of things move into Sag, where it'll be more of the opinions and the beliefs of others opposed to what the real facts will be. And deciding what those facts will be the biggest battle we've ever seen. Because who's really been creating facts based off opinions or off stories, and who really has been following the true facts of the universe, where the Pleiades are. Look at this though. Mars at 5 degrees of Aquarius here in exact square to Uranus during this full moon. You got to be willing to get on a radical spaceship and go to the directions. It's almost like the universe is asking us, think of Earth being your own environment right now. And then think of these elements trying to get you on your little pods out right now to a better world, to connection. But you're still in the confinement of that world, if that makes sense. Creepy. I talked a lot about the full moon, Libra, about relationships. And the reason why is because with Venus going shadow and with Venus being a big aspect in all this, and with this only full moon this year while the North Node is in Cancer, you better get your emotional relationships in now, because if you're going to play restriction and play grandma, grandpa and say, no, 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 you're gonna go through this year pleading with North Node and Venus conjunction. Well, it's like they don't actually conjunct till the end of the retrograde, but after shadow, but it is going to be weird that you're going to go through this time of yearning for things and almost missing it, because it's almost like the greatest tease, as Venus is going to come towards the North Node and then retrograde and be like, oh wait, I'll come back to you in months. And that's going to piss Rahu off, because Rahu's like, damn, I want to get that Venus. I want to get those relations. I want a relationship. I want excitement. I want money. I want all this. And this is what you need to prepare for. What do you think relationships are about? They're about supporting one another. You really think the money system's going to go good over the next couple months with the Venus retrograde, getting teased by the North Node and then retrograding backwards? You better start thinking. April 8th. Here's Venus, the last day. And it's hard because this moon comes into Scorpio, it finishes here in Libra at 28 degrees. But what does it do? It comes into Scorpio. Bang. Okay. And what is it going to do? It's going to square Saturn and square Mars. So yeah, it's hard. The malefics are here. And here's this moon in Scorpio, just kind of like, fuck. And especially if you're a Scorpio born on the first 3 days, October 23rd through, 26th. That's where the first 3 degrees are here that Saturn is squaring. So, this is a hard time for this moon in Scorpio that's not in its good position, and it's squaring Saturn. It doesn't feel good to make some sort of change that you're too obsessed or comfortable about, but it's going to oppose Uranus. So we have a big T-square forming with the moon, Mars, Saturn, Uranus, and this is about moving forward into a better life by changing the game of the emotions and letting go and taking this rocket ship of Mars and Saturn, of authority and of mastery of the true courageous self into a new radical world that might seem like you're crazy, but it's a door. And here's Mercury at 26 degrees before it goes into Aries, but it's at Pisces. And, it's got a good aspect here to Jupiter and Pluto. So it's like, take the door now. You got to follow your gut. You got to go. You got to take it. Not going to be a lot of doors. I'm going to be honest with you all through this year. Like zero, I'm sure you already noticed there's not a lot of doorways already in life. If you think that the astrology is going to have this moment through the whole year, I can go through the whole year and just be like, no door, no door, no door, no door, no door. Oh, here's a door. There's a door. Wednesday, April 8th. There's a door. This is not fucking no normal shit. This is the real McCoy. You've been looking for a door? It's not the door from the television. It's the door fucking that you choose, that you do with your reality, that the TV isn't fucking even showing you or even talking about. Because for some reason everybody's got lost, and I'm not saying everybody, but I'm just saying, let's just say general consensus is I think that everybody's fucking over what we see on television, and everybody's remembering that we have this whole life in front of us right now. But you might have to live in the confines of it, but it doesn't mean that you still can't go live the world that you want to go live within it. Come on, who's telling you to not live your life inside your home? They're not telling you what to do inside your home. Although it is kind of scary when the WHO, one of the guys says that we need to start going into people's homes and testing people and seeing who has it and pulling them out, and where are they taking them? Go look it up. Remember that Gemini rules the mind. And with Venus here, if you don't know how to put yourself to feel good, if you don't know how to connect with people, you don't know how to do that shit, you're going to go mentally through where you need to call 188 number for some mental health assistance. And right now the lines are overwhelmed. The average calls were like 1,000 a day in certain states, and they've gone up to 25,000 calls a day in independent states. That's just one state. Because people are not focusing on knowing how to make themselves feel good, or connect, or live in that world, or know how to build something or create something. So if you're having issues right now about creation, about relationships, and about stepping into feeling good, guess what? Now you're messing with this. And what do the lungs rule? Gemini. So it means your lungs are connected right now to your happiness and stimulation, because what do the lungs do? They bring the oxygen in for you to keep going, and they're the fastest moving energies that keep going besides the heart, because the sun and Mercury are best friends. Who's the best friend of the sun? The heart? Mercury. The lungs are the best friend of the heart. It pumps the oxygen to pump the oxygen into the blood system, which keeps the heart going. So if you don't know how to have love and happiness and fun and curiosity and communication and stimulation about what you're doing, I would say that that's the spiritual version of what we're seeing out there. You know, my deep truth. And especially with Venus dealing with relationships and self-worth and creation and money. That's another trigger point. So I'm showing you a motherfucking door right now. And are you going to take it? And it's a wild one. It's Mars. It's Wild West shit. Mars square Uranus. Holy shit. It's going to feel like you have to jump over some sort of like crazy electrical fence when it's really not even an electrical fence. It's the electrical fence of your own fear, of your insecurities, and your inability to try anything new, and your emotional comfort in shit show, and wanting to just stay in the shit show and wait for the fucking... You think Babe's going to save the day and be the pig that fucking opens the gate for the fucking sheep? There's no Babe showing up. And there ain't no sheepdogs either, because the sheepdogs work for the fucking you-know-who. And I'm sorry, Charlotte's Web, Charlotte ain't showing up to help the pig save his life at the moment and persuade and do all the work in the background. Okay? You are Charlotte's Web. You are Babe the pig right now. And that's your doorway. This is Babe's doorway. This is the pig's doorway in Charlotte's Web. Because by Thursday, April 9th, here it is, overtime, Venus in shadow. So guess what? Now you go into the shadow period, which I'll color in here, which is at 21 degrees of Gemini, and that's where the retrograde is going to be back to 5. And this is all going to happen, remember, May 13th, and the 40-day and 40-night cycle of the retro. To where it comes here. Remember, the sun is going to come as well by that time and meet here with Venus and Cassini. And if I'm correct, I think it's at 13 or 4, or I think it's at 13 degrees. I'll put it out when it gets closer there, but I think it's at 13 degrees. Look at this, Mercury at 27. It's at these last degrees of Pisces, which are very hard and very difficult, to feeling like hopeless. And so there can be a feeling of, okay, am I really literally insane for at least jumping to something wild and crazy that's going to make me feel better? Or are you going to feel depressed because you feel insane that you didn't jump through the door? Look at Mars, 6 degrees, making a sextile to Chiron. We're going to get healed through this radical jump. If we move along here, we've got the sun at 21. We got Venus at 6. And why am I looking at that 21 degrees? Well, it's now in the third decan. You're at a higher ground on what you take in your life and what you identify with. And Venus now is in shadow, right? But look at this. Mars and Venus are starting their trines, okay? And so this is like where it's like Mars is pushing this Venus shadow story together with the North Node closing in. And here's that moon in Scorpio and trine to Mercury as it leaves Pisces. Like, it's either, you know, the darkest hour or the brightest one, depending on where you sit by Friday of what you chose, that you're going to at least go jump and see. Because then when Mercury comes into Aries and the moon comes into Sag, we start to get excited that we took that journey at least and get to understand and see and identify. Mercury's going to try and understand and identify. It's going to come to the 0 position of Aries where we get confidence. We get confidence about something that is exciting and new and moving towards and opening towards. But if we don't have that on Friday, you're going to go into this weekend like fucking, I don't have anything. I don't have anything to identify with. I don't have anything to be hopeful for. I don't have anything to open up towards because I didn't want to open the door. This is an Alice in Wonderland moment this week. And I always have thought that she's got a Gemini Pisces energy. I would call her in with Sag. I would call her like a Pisces with a Gemini rising with a moon in Sag or something. You know, like that's Alice in Wonderland. And there's an Alice in Wonderland and you know what? It might seem like it's crazy, but obviously her sitting with her mom and reading that horrible book was definitely not the place for her. And that is the times we're at right now. And do you think her mom would be on television telling us what to do right now? 100% for sure. That moon in Sag on Saturday at 12 degrees here, it's excited because, you know, it's going to be looking at that Mercury that it did. It's going to be with Chiron. That's going to be with the sun, but it's going to square Neptune. So we could kind of step into some emotional doubt about it. But that would only be if you're just getting caught up and worrying about what other people think, which is a major Saturn and Mars in Aquarius situation. Remember that when Saturn's in Aquarius for the next, 3 years total, you need to remember that if you're worried about what other people think, you might as well just fucking throw in the towel right now and have a fucking really rough 3 years. Like having Saturn in the 11th. People start to go, I'm not going to talk to anybody. I'm just going to stay alone. So this is a big choice. Do you really want to be alone through this? Or do you really want to fucking be connected and have friends and have groups and have love and all that shit? You gotta pick. And there's Venus at 6. It's still, trying to trine over here to Mars. It's fast. Don't worry. Venus isn't fully slowed down yet. As you can see here on Sunday, here's Venus and there's Mars. Yeah, Mars is going quick, but yeah, Venus is starting to slow down. So there's this, like, you don't want to miss it. That's what I'm saying, is there's something off about this. It's like trying to catch up, but the math is a little off, or Venus is starting to slow. That's what shadow is. We're going to see the moon come here in Sag on Sunday, and this is the big deal, because this moon is about to come into the last time we're going to see here with Jupiter and Pluto with the South Node in Capricorn. This is going to be the last time we're going to see the moon with this Passover coming into Monday. And that's why I'm saying you want to make these choices before this week, because Sunday we're about to slip back into the weirdness of that moon in Capricorn that's been hiding the control systems of the prison in the world. And they might do something weird on this day or coming in, because look at the sun. It's about to square Pluto. And that's what I'm going to show you all is here we are, Monday the 13th. Look at Venus trying to trine Mars, but not yet. No, but look at this. Pluto at 2457. It's pretty much stationary. It's getting ready to come retrograde, at the end, at the beginning of May here and the end of April. Like, it's going to go to its dead stop. And look at this, Sun 24 square Pluto. It's like either there's going to be a big fight, right, about the individual self, and the control systems that are hidden are going to come into their clash. And with the moon here with the South Node occulting it for the last time in Capricorn with Pluto, this is going to be the darkest hour that tries to do its bidding. And this is going to be with Mercury and Chiron here. So it might be like news that you don't want to hear, that you don't want to identify with, that you don't want to accept, but it might be some really hard thing. But you know what? I think the harder thing will be with the moon in Capricorn and with Mars trying to break free, and with the trine to Venus, it'll be like, oh wait, Venus is in shadow. We already started that story. But what if you chose alone? And that's the problem with Saturn and Aquarius. When you choose alone, you lose. especially with Mars there in Aquarius, it can make you feel like I can do this all alone. How many more choices do you really have to look at in your life is a big question. Now, you're going to have to start to look long-term with this Jupiter, Pluto, and Capricorn. Do you really think you have a lot more choices to keep looking around in the world for things? Do you really think that you're going to have a lot of options? Do you really think that you're going to, for the rest of this cycle here, do you really think that it's just going to be throughout this year just like, oh yeah, I'm just going to have so many options in my life. I'm going to have so many opportunities to just keep looking and seeking and searching. No. So please take my advice. Please take my word. Don't fuck around with this full moon in Libra when it comes to really just opening your heart and taking a risk, which the risk is to jump into the world that's already an invisible prison, but what are you passing into it that will bring you the comfort so we can all come together and so you can find your happiness and find your balance? Because a supercharged human coming out of this invisible prison to change the world is going to be a lot different than a normal human choosing not to be super, choosing not to have love, choosing not to have support, choosing not to have anybody, choosing not to go through the most radical life experience inside and create the abundance and create the stimulation and create the comfort and create the more better world. If you can't do that within your own life, do you think that the outer world's going to change? I love you all very much. Please share this video. Please join that Love Masterclass. It's going to be always where you can just watch the recordings, but for just 3 more weeks, we're going to be doing live shows where, again, you can be part of it in the chat and ask questions. Go to leoking.com or highvibe.tv and just click on the Love Masterclass and join. And then, of course, you just go to highvibe.tv, click on school on the website, and you can log in and watch all the videos and be part of the live as well. We put the webinar link for Zoom on each class on the school. Love you very much. Spread this video. Let's go. And make sure you watch Spiritual Dance because if it goes out on YouTube after we're done, it's always free on High Vibe, on the apps and the website. I don't know how many times I tell this to people. Everybody gets pissed at me on YouTube, like, where'd it go? I'm like, it's on High Vibe for free all the time. So, and there's no breaks on it, and it's the total thing. So we'll see you for Spiritual Dance Music. Even if you're watching this as a recording the next day, you can always watch it free on High Vibe. The app's free, and you can just go to Spiritual Dance Music or Leo King and just click it and blast it in your freaking ride or whatever you're at right now. I hope that you've got a cool place for where you're spending this crazy invisible prison. Love you all.